Welcome back to Legislative News Update. I'm Tim Boyum. This week we're here with Senator Josh Stein, a Democrat from Wake County. Thank you again for being here, sir. We've been talking about the gas tax and the transportation issue. In a lot of ways, this bill is a Band-Aid. I mean, we've seen the gas tax revenues just tanking over the last several years. We know that the governor wants to do maybe a $1.2 billion transportation bond. When do you think we're going to tackle the long-term issues with transportation? Because it's coming fast. There's a lot, billions of dollars. But not any really easy solutions.
No, we have engineers have done an analysis and show that we have tens of billions of dollars in infrastructural needs in North Carolina. Look, this is one of the core challenges for government where we have short-term and long-term needs, infrastructure. These are investments that are made over many, many years, but you have to pay for it. And folks don't like to pay more taxes, understandably so. Government doesn't like to levy more taxes as a result. And so it becomes an extremely difficult challenge. The gas tax is an imperfect way to finance infrastructure in and of itself because basically as cars get more fuel efficient and folks drive less, which two phenomenon that are happening, you get less revenue out of the gas tax for the same amount of utility, the use on the roads. And so you have the same wear and tear, but you're getting less revenue. So regardless of where it's set, it's going to be declining. We have to be creative in how we finance it. I am open to hearing the governor's ideas on using bond funding for infrastructure. I'm open to private-public partnerships to help finance infrastructural needs. I have introduced a bill the last couple of terms on an infrastructural development fund for just that purpose. And we have to recognize that there's some types of cars, electric cars or hybrid cars, that drive the same amount of miles but pay no or little in gas taxes. And we got to find out a way to ensure that they're contributing their fair share to the road issue and other infrastructural issues. So we have to be open-minded, creative. And this is a perfect example. We talked earlier about whether Democrats and Republicans talk to each other. And here would be an instance where if the governor would convene the Senate leadership, the House leadership, Democrat and Republican, and talk about what can we do together so that we're all in it and we're all bought in. And that just doesn't happen. And I think that this is an instance where some leadership from the governor, from the President Pro Tem, from the Speaker of the House that was not partisan could really make a difference.
A lot of people want to look for a silver bullet, whether it's the vehicles, the miles driven thing or sales tax. But I mean, it seems like the more I talk to people, it's going to require a menu of options to pay for roads in the future. I mean, do you see that?
I agree. There is no one solution. And that's why I didn't particularly like the bill, but at least it stopped the bleeding, and that's why I voted for it.
The public-private partnerships, that's something, I mean, that seems like something Republicans would like, right? I mean,
and North Carolina has been doing it for the last 10 years. We've been kind of gradually stepping into it. I-77 is being developed in that way. And there's a whole range of levels of public-private partnership from design to design-build to design-build finance to design-build finance maintain, design-build finance maintain own. So there's a range of issues. I mean, ultimately, my personal belief is that public infrastructure should be owned by the public, but that we should use private sector efficiencies and ingenuity to deliver those products to the people in a more cost-effective manner.
Economic incentives is another fun topic for everybody to discuss. The House has filed a bill to basically double what's now known as JDIG.
Yep.
What's your take on this issue? I know everybody doesn't like them, but we got to do them, blah, 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 blah. But what's your take on this issue?
You just said it. I like them, we got to do them, and blah, 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 blah. No, it is painful, but we exist not in a vacuum, we exist in the real world. So when we're trying to recruit a big auto manufacturer or some big manufacturer to North Carolina, we have to sell our assets, but South Carolina is doing the same thing. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia. Everybody's selling their assets. And we have different things that we have better than some of those states. We have a better system of higher education. We've traditionally had better K-12, although that's waning in the last couple of years. But all of those states around us use economic incentives as pot sweeteners that, to make it a little bit more attractive. And if we get out of the game, even though philosophically none of us like incentives, what we have done is ensure that we'll never get a big manufacturer to move to North Carolina. And the way the process works is they only get the incentives if they actually create jobs and actually have payroll. So that if they don't meet the new job numbers, if they say we're going to create 1,000 jobs or 2,000 jobs, if they don't meet what's in that contract, they don't get it. And if they do meet it, then they do get it. If they are here for 10 years and they leave after 4 or 5 years, there are provisions called clawback provisions to take the money back that was granted to that company. And we're doing that with Dell right now. We've already done it. Dell came in Greensboro. We gave them a big incentive package. They're leaving. Well, they're giving all that money back. And then, but what we've got is pretty good, but it can be better. The programs tend to be concentrated in the areas that are already doing well, whether that's the Triangle or Charlotte.
Urban.
We've got to, I think, increase the weighting for the rural areas so that it's more of a pull, more of an incentive to get the companies to locate in the areas that are really struggling economically in North Carolina.
Do you think the biggest battle on that issue is between Republicans and themselves?
Yes, absolutely. I think that look, this isn't one that fits totally neatly in an ideological framework. I think that in the main, Democrats are supportive of incentives. Surely there may be some people who don't like them. My sense, clearly I know the governor is in favor of them because he's asking for it. I think some House Republicans are open to it. I don't know about their whole full caucus. We will see as this bill progresses. And I think there's even greater skepticism among Senate Republicans. But it is a tool in the toolbox. And if we take that tool out, we have a less useful toolbox.
I get a sense that people are more in tune with wanting to do JDIG, for lack of a better term. I think it's going to be called Grow and See, rather than the film incentives or the historic preservation tax credits. Is that accurate, do you think?
Clearly, because they eliminated the film incentives and they've eliminated the historic rehab tax credits. The House did not put those back in its bill that it introduced this week. The Senate has been the chief institution hostile to those. I think it's exceedingly short-sighted to allow those to have expired. We are seeing it in Wilmington with the film industry, where no major new contract has been signed since the tax credits were eliminated and this new grant program created. We've lost 3 major TV series that have moved to other states. No new big movies have come. And that's 4,000 jobs in North Carolina that are good jobs, and we shouldn't just be turning our back on them. And they work exactly the way I described the JDIG, in that they are only granted on sales tax expenditures that occur in the state of North Carolina. And so that if they're not doing the business here, they don't get the sales tax rebates. But meanwhile, all those thousands and thousands of people who work in the industry are earning good incomes, providing for their families, and by the way, paying sales, property, and income taxes to their state and local governments, strengthening those communities. So it's short-sighted that they've allowed those to expire.
I don't want to oversimplify the nuances between the programs, but the Republicans say they don't want to pick winners and losers. But if you pick JDIG and don't do film or something, is that not picking winners and losers?
Well, really, JDIG is about picking individual companies, which is the definition of a winner and a loser. When you have a film sector, you're picking an entire industry. You're betting on an industry. We've got a renewable energy tax credit in North Carolina. Actually, it was one of the first bills I introduced was to extend it back in 2009 to when it expires at the end of this year. That as a result of that and some other state policies we've had here, that industry has just blossomed. There are some 25,000 people working in that sector today in North Carolina when it was non-existent.
Solar in particular.
Solar in particular. And so if we don't extend that, all we're doing is cutting off our nose to spite our face. And I believe in betting on sectors even more than I do individual corporations. And so that's why I like the film and I like the renewable energy tax credits, because they're not picking individual companies, they're picking an entire sector.
We seem really desperate to get an auto industry company in here. Is that because it's a huge name, or is it because there's other sectors that come in with it? I mean, we just seem really desperate to get a Volvo or something. Maybe I'm overstating that.
No, I don't think you are. And it's two things. One is it's the ego, it's the feather in the cap. And I'm sure the governor would love to be able to go around saying, I got Volvo to come to North Carolina. So there's some of that. But really, auto manufacturers end up attracting a lot of satellite manufacturers, the seat case makers, all the frame folks. I mean, there's just tons of ancillary industries that build up around an auto plant. So if you can get a big manufacturer, whether it's airline or space or automobile, and you can do it in a way that is revenue positive for the state, you should do that, because there's going to be a lot of growth that comes around that plant.
We only got a few minutes left, but I want to touch on education. I know that's big for you. We saw the raises that went into effect last year. What is your hope, and I guess with reality in there a bit, about what might happen this year with teacher pay?
Well, we need to do substantially more. The pay plan last year was just a short-term, small, and it really was targeted on the early teachers. It did little to nothing for experienced teachers. In fact, if you were a teacher with a master's degree or going to get a master's degree, they took away that reward for future teachers with master's degree. So it was, frankly, a teacher pay plan that disrespected experienced and our best teachers. That said, I hope they build on it. My main critique was it was too little, and it was an election year in order to make themselves appear more popular for the voters. We need to see, are they committed to this? And just doing a little bit more for starting teachers, that is nowhere near enough when experienced teachers got nothing last year, or little to nothing. So we need a 4-year sustained commitment to get North Carolina to the national average. And we will see, were they true to their statements this year from when they were running for re-election last year.
Well, the good news, I guess, is we're going to be in a big election next year, so if they don't do something this year, but that won't do for the teachers that are here now. And we have heard Speaker Moore talk about he does want to help some of the veteran teachers.
Good.
But we keep hearing it's a lot about performance pay. Can that work?
It's exceedingly difficult. In fact, I introduced legislation last session that would have created a task force of interested parties, and very notably including teachers, including administrators, principals, school board folks, to look at this issue. There are some ways, but it has to be comprehensive. It can't just be on a single set of end-of-year test scores. It needs to be on evaluations by outside experts, by the principal. It needs to, even student input can be valuable. You have to look at things more than just that one test score. So I think that there's some possibility there. What I thought should happen is we should have a few pilot programs in school districts and see how it works before we upend the entire way we pay teachers statewide. But more importantly, I think we need to be flexible with teacher responsibilities, and so that you could actually have teachers who are master teachers with more responsibility, and other teachers who may be reading expert teachers who might provide a different type of teaching. And then you're paying people based on what they're doing in their job, and I think that's something definitely teachers can accept, because they understand the difference in job responsibilities.
And teachers that we need more of, math and science. I mean, I've heard that a lot too, about maybe paying some of those folks more, people that will go to some of these more troubled counties. I mean, those continued things that you think we need to do? We
do need to do it. I mean, there are some counties where there's not a chemistry teacher or an algebra 2 teacher, some high schools, excuse me, where there's no algebra 2 teacher. I mean, that's crazy. And so if it takes a little more to get a pre-calculus teacher to go to some rural county where there's currently being underserved, we need to, as a state, pay that, because it's unfair to expect a very poor, small, rural county to come up with that teacher supplement. That's something that we all collectively have an interest in, making sure that all of North Carolina has an opportunity to grow and succeed and achieve whatever their talent, wherever it takes them.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. It always goes fast, but Senator Stein, good to see you. Thank you so much. Always enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching Legislative News Update. I'm Tim Boyum.